My younger sister and I simultaneously bound with the true or false heir selection system. The system said, first, stay in the billionaire family as an adopted daughter, but you must marry the legendary cruel and disabled illegitimate son on behalf of the real heiress. Second, return to the impoverished mountainous area to reunite with your biological parents, work in farming every day, and take care of 3 younger brothers. In my previous life, Gu Jiaojiao unhesitatingly chose option 1. She disliked the countryside's poverty and absolutely refused to go back, but after she married in, she found out her disabled husband was a pervert who not only tortured her but also bankrupted the Gu family. I was forced to choose the second option and return to the countryside, who knew my poor parents were actually hidden mine owners, pretending to be poor just to toughen up their children later. When our house was demolished, we received 200 million in compensation. My 3 younger brothers became business tycoons and spoiled me like a princess. When Gu Jiaojiao saw the news on TV about my billions in assets, she was consumed with jealousy and tried to drag me down with her. When I opened my eyes again, we had returned to the day we had to make a choice. I choose the second option. I want to go back to the countryside. I want to find my biological parents. Gu Jiaojiao screamed like a madwoman. Terrified that I would snatch away her immense fortune, I looked at her greedy face and smiled. Since in this life she's so eager to dig for wild vegetables, I'll grant her wish. As for that so-called fire pit aristocratic family, who said that was a pit of fire? 1. Gu Wei, have you gone mute? Since Jiajiao wants to experience life in the countryside, you'll have to stay behind and fulfill the marriage arrangement. In the opulent hall of the Gu family, my adoptive mother, Lin Yakin, looked at me with disgust, as if I were a defective product she had no choice but to keep. Even before her fake identity as the Yin mistress was exposed, Lin Yakin had always favored Gu Jiaojiao more. If one of my sister and I had to stay in the Gu family, my adoptive mother would definitely hope it was my sister. Gu Jiaojiao had already eagerly packed her luggage. She even put on a coarse cloth outfit that didn't fit her properly. A look of unrestrained ecstasy was on her face. She leaned close to my ear and viciously whispered in a voice only the 2 of us could hear, "Sister, I'll leave that crippled husband to you to save her slowly. I'm telling you, he's useless in that department, and he likes whipping people. Don't worry, once I become the mine owner's daughter, I'll burn some joss paper for you." I glanced at her, my expression indifferent. "Then I wish you all the best in achieving your dreams." Gu Jiaojiao thought that in my previous life, my comeback was due to luck, thanks to those invisible wealthy parents. She had no idea at all, in my previous life, when I first returned to the countryside, that family was truly destitute. The so-called mine owner was me who led the entire village to explore and discover it. The so-called demolition was something I achieved by staying up late writing planning documents and personally going to the city to secure it. Those 3 younger brothers, I pulled them out of the mud one by one, and their success was beaten out by me. Gu Jiaojiao only saw the results but ignored the process. She's the kind of fool who only wants to reap the benefits without putting in the effort. Even if you gave her a mountain of gold, she could also turn it into a wasteland. I turned around and looked at my adoptive father, Gu Haitian, who was sitting on the sofa with a gloomy expression. "Dad, Mom, I can marry Fu Shilin, but I have one condition." Gu Haitian frowned. "As an adopted daughter, what right do you have to make conditions? The Gu family raised you to this age just so you could repay them at a time like this. If I don't marry, the Gu family's financial chain won't last past next month." Right, I hit the nail on the head, directly tearing off the Gu family's veil of pretense. In my previous life, I already knew the Gu family was hollow inside despite their outward strength. They were in a hurry to arrange the marriage just to use the Fu family's dowry to plug the hole. Gu Haitian's expression changed. "What do you mean?" "I want 5% of Gu Group as my dowry." I slowly stated my price. "Besides, I'm taking over that electronics factory in the south of the city that's been losing money." "You're crazy. 5% equity. You might as well rob someone." Lin Yakin screamed. "Even though Fu Shilin is disabled, he holds real power in the Fu family. If I marry into the family, and can't whisper sweet nothings to him, do you really think the Fu family will invest in you?" I smiled, my gaze sharp. "Give me shares, and the Gu family and I will be bound by common interests. If you don't, I'll cause a scene at the wedding, and we'll all go down together." Gu Haitian stared at me intently, as if seeing this timid and obedient adopted daughter of 20 years for the first time. After a long pause, he gritted his teeth and said, "All right, here you go, but that electronics factory is heavily in debt. You'll be responsible for its profits and losses yourself. Don't expect a single penny from the family." I received the equity transfer agreement and signed my name on it. At that moment, I was no longer a pawn to be manipulated by the Gu family. 2. Gu Jiaojiao boarded the green train bound for the remote mountain village. Before leaving, she left all the designer bags in the wardrobe. She only took a few bank cards and that set of coarse cloth clothes. She said to Lin Yakin, "Mom, I'm going to find my roots. I can't bring these extravagant things. It would hurt my biological parents' feelings." Lin Yakin wiped away her tears, moved. "Look, this is truly the bloodline of our Gu family, so sensible, unlike that Gu Wei, who's all about money." Gu Jiajiao sneered in her heart. What's the use of bringing a bag? Once she gets there, her mine owner dad will definitely buy her something better. In her previous life, when Gu Wei returned to the city, she traveled by private jet. However, reality gave Gu Jiajiao a harsh wake-up call. After getting off the train, she transferred to a bus, then she took a tractor. Finally, she still had to walk 5 kilometers along the mountain path when Gu Jiajiao stood in front of those dilapidated mud brick houses, looking at the chicken droppings and pig manure scattered all over the ground. She was completely stunned. Is this the disguise of an invisible tycoon? She comforted herself. This must be a test. Absolutely. You're that kid from the city. A dark-skinned, wrinkled farm woman walked out, carrying a bucket of pig feed in her hand. This is our biological mother, Lu Tsuihua. In her previous life, she was a typical rural tough woman, favoring sons over daughters, but she wasn't completely bad. At least I managed to reform her later, but Gu Jiajiao clearly didn't have the ability to reform people. "Mom," Gu Jiajiao suppressed her nausea and rushed forward, shouting, "I'm back, I'm your real daughter." Lu Tsuihua was taken aback for a moment, then she put down the pig trough and wiped her rough hands on her apron. Her eyes revealed shrewdness. Is she really their biological daughter? The Gu family said they gave a 500,000 compensation. Where is the money? Gu Jiajiao was taken aback. In my previous life, when I returned to the countryside, I indeed brought the 500,000 given by the Gu family. That sum became the startup capital for my first fortune. But in this life, Gu Jiaojiao, to show her backbone and to avoid arousing suspicion from the Gu family, simply didn't take the 500,000. The few cards she brought were her own private savings, but she didn't dare to reveal them. "Mom, the Gu family didn't give any money. I sneaked back here." Gu Jiaojiao told a lie to Lu Tsuihua's face instantly fell. "No money? If you have no money, why did you come back? Just to have another mouth to feed?" At that moment, 3 shirtless, ruffian-like young men walked out of the room. These were the 3 Big Shot's younger brothers who would later become powerful in the previous life: Zhao Long, Zhao Hu, Zhao Bao. But now, they were still just local troublemakers in the village. Eldest brother Zhao Long picked his teeth, leering at Gu Jiaojiao. "Well, this city girl is quite a looker, Mom. Since we don't have any money, let's strip her clothes and sell them. The fabric looks pretty good." Gu Jiajiao stepped back in fear. "What are you doing? I'm your sister. I came back to help you all get rich. Besides, doesn't our family own a mine?" "Mine." Old third Zhao Bao sneered and spat a thick glob of phlegm beside Gu Jiaojiao's feet. "Are you crazy? If we had a mine, would I still have to steal chickens from the next village?" "Mom, this girl's not right in the head. Hurry up and send her to feed the pigs. She shouldn't just eat without doing any work." Gu Jiaojiao broke down. This was completely different from what she had imagined. "No, are you all acting to test me?" Lu Tsuihua lost her patience. "Stop pretending, you little brat. Hand over the check now." She grabbed the broom nearby and swung it at Gu Jiaojiao. "Stop with your nonsense. Go feed the pigs right away, or you won't get any dinner tonight." That night, Gu Jiaojiao ate a bowl of spoiled sweet potato porridge in the home of this invisible wealthy person and moved into a drafty woodshed. She called me, and as soon as the call connected, she started screaming frantically, "Gu Wei, you bitch, you lied to me." But unexpectedly, it was Lin Yakin who answered the phone. "My adoptive mother took me to try on wedding dresses." Holding my phone for me, she was stunned by the scolding. "Jiaojiao, is that you? How did your speech become so vulgar?" Hearing Lin Yakin's voice, Gu Jiaojiao was so frightened that she immediately hung up the phone. "I dare not call again." 3. Just as Gu Jiaojiao was feeding the pigs, I was sitting in the Fu family's bridal chamber, wearing a custom-made wedding dress worth millions. Rumors have it that Fu Shilin not only became disabled in both legs but also had his face disfigured in a car accident 3 years ago. My temperament has become extremely violent. I've driven 3 fiancés insane one after another. The Gu family sent me here, essentially to be used as cannon fodder. The door was pushed open, the wheelchair rolled over the carpet. I looked up and saw a face wearing a silver mask. The Gu family sent someone this time. They've got quite some nerve. Fu Shirlin's voice was deep, carrying the authority of a long-time superior, along with a faint, barely perceptible sense of world weariness. He didn't remove his mask, just stared at me coldly. "Do you know where the women who tried to climb into my bed before are now?" I stood up, without a trace of fear, and walked straight toward him. "Mr. Fu, I don't care where they are, I only care about when we're going to sign the contract. Fu Shilin's eyes flickered slightly. Contract. The Gu family sees you as a sucker, wanting your investment, but I see you as a partner. I pulled out a pre-prepared document from the hidden layer of my wedding dress and slapped it onto his disabled leg. I said, "This is the financial loophole analysis report of the Gu group, along with the list of those executives within the Fu group who are secretly transferring assets." Fu Shilin's pupils contracted sharply. That list was a secret he had been investigating for half a year without success. How could an outsider possibly know about it? All of this was information Gu Jiaojiao had overheard in her previous life, when she was trying to please him and was tortured to the brink of death, before she died. Gu Jiaojiao cursed out these secrets, and I remembered every single one. "What do you want, Fu?" Shirlin finally looked at me directly. "I want the Gu family to go bankrupt. I want that electronics factory to come back to life, and I also need to leverage your influence to build my business empire." I leaned down, looking straight into his deep eyes behind the mask. "In exchange, I will cure your legs and help you secure the inheritance rights of the Fu family." Fu Shirlin, marrying a vase only gives you a decoration. Marrying a comrade in arms is how you conquer the world, this time. You're not at a loss. The air froze for 3 seconds. Fu Shirlin suddenly laughed, his laughter low and his chest vibrating. His slender fingers slowly removed the mask from his face, revealing a countenance that, despite faint scars, remained breathtakingly handsome. "Gu, right, interesting." He reached out and took my hand. "Deal, but if you lie to me, I'll make your death worse than those previous women." I held his hand back, smiling brightly. "Nice working with you, husband." This address made Fu Shirlin's eyelashes tremble slightly, the false smile freezing at the corner of his mouth. Before he could open his mouth to say anything more, I kicked his wheelchair away. He and the chair slid out the door together. "Remember to close the door, hubby," for on the 3rd day after the wedding, I returned to my parents' home. According to custom, I should have brought Fu Shirlin back to my family, but the Gu family never expected Fu Shirlin to come. They only hoped I could bring back a check from the Fu family. Yet I went back alone. I drove the most eye-catching Bugatti from Fu Shirlin's garage, followed by 2 cars of bodyguards in black. Gu Haitian and Lin Yakin's originally gloomy faces instantly lit up with smiles at the sight of the luxury car. "Vivi, why didn't Shirlin come? Is he feeling unwell?" Lin Yakin asked hypocritically, but her eyes kept darting toward the bodyguards behind me, trying to see if there were any gifts. "He's busy." I walked straight into the hall and sat down in the seat of honor. "I'm here to take over the electronics factory." "Are all the formalities completed?" Gu Haitian's face stiffened. "You kid, why are you talking about business as soon as you get back? Where's the check? What about the 100 million yuan the Fu family promised to invest?" "No checks, but I do have a lawyer's letter." I snapped my fingers, and the lawyer behind me handed over a document. "Dad, the falsified accounts you made at the electronics factory, embezzling 20 million to cover your illegitimate son's gambling debts. This could land you in jail if it gets exposed, right?" Gu Haitian was shocked. How did you know?" "That was the shocking scandal that broke out when the Gu family went bankrupt in the previous life, and it was also the last straw that broke the camel's back for the Gu family. Transfer full control of the electronics factory to me and cut off all ties with the Gu family, and I'll keep this matter to myself. This is blackmail. I am your father." Gu Haitian slammed the table and stood up. "Just an adoptive father," I coldly said. "Besides, I've already recorded it. Do you want to go to the police station for tea now, or sign it?" 10 minutes later, I walked out of the Gu family's gate holding the signed transfer document. Gu Haitian smashed a set of teaware behind me. Lin Yakin wailed and cried hysterically. I feel nothing but exhilaration. Although that electronics factory is currently producing cheap MP4 players with outdated technology and is burdened with debt, in 3 months, the wave of smartphones will sweep across the globe, and the mountain of touchscreen components, once considered scrap in the factory's warehouse, will become the most sought-after hard currency in the market. Just a slight modification to the production line, this factory would turn into a money-printing machine. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, Gu Jiaojiao was experiencing her first entrepreneurial failure. She tried to imitate my life's path, leading villagers to mine in the back mountains. Believe me, there really is a rare earth mine here. Once we dig it up, our whole village will strike it rich. Gu Jiaojiao, holding a hoe, was frantically digging all over the mountain like a madwoman. The villagers, swept up in her enthusiasm, followed along and dug for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, all I could see was stones and muddy slush, not even a single piece of coal slag. "Liar, this girl is a liar." Angry villagers surrounded Gu Jiaojiao. The 3 brothers from the Zhao family were even more furious. "Damn I listened to you and sold all the pigs at home to buy explosives, and this is what you show me. Zhao Long slapped Gu Jiaozhou across the face. Gu Jiaozhou was hit so hard that blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, and she was completely stunned. Impossible. In my previous life, it was definitely here. Gu Wei definitely dug it up right here. What she didn't know was that in my previous life, I wasn't digging randomly. I had taught myself geology, I had gone through all the county records, and I had hired a professional geological survey team. The location of Veer Vein was only confirmed after half a year. Moreover, Veer Vein wasn't located at the back mountain, but in the wild boar forest 10 kilometers away, requiring excavation 500 meters deeper underground. Gu Jiaozhou, a fool who only knows the surface but not the core, would only turn the profit into a joke. That night, Gu Jiaozhou was locked in the pigsty. Lu Tsuehua spat at her through the railing. Starting tomorrow, you'll go to the brick factory to carry bricks and pay off your debt. If you dare to carry even one brick less, I'll break your legs. 5. Gu Jiaozhou secretly used the village store's phone to call Lin Yakin, tearfully complaining about how miserable her life was in the mountain village. Mom, there's no mine here at all. Those 3 younger brothers are all hooligans. I can't even bathe or sleep peacefully. I want to come back. I don't want to switch anymore. Lin Yakin received the call, only able to silently remain helpless. Now Gu Wei has climbed up to the Fu family. She still holds leverage over Gu Haitian in her hand. How dare the Gu family bring anyone else back to offend the Fu family? Moreover, Gu Jiaozhou now has no value to be exploited. Jiaozhou, since you chose this path yourself, you must walk it on your knees. There's nothing I can do. Lin Yakin's words completely cut off Gu Jiaozhou's way back, and I was carrying out sweeping reforms in the electronics factory. I fired all the relatives and cronies placed by Gu Haitian. I promoted those technically skilled staff who had been underappreciated in my previous life. Mr. Gu, do we really need to keep all these touchscreens? The market is still dominated by button phones, and the backlog of inventory is about to break the capital chain. Factory manager Li Ming was deeply worried. Keep them. Not only keep them, but also buy up all similar raw materials on the market in large quantities. I sat in the simple office, looking at the calendar on the wall. There is still 1 month left before that man named Jobs will release a groundbreaking product. By then, the global production capacity of touchscreens will be in short supply. Li Ming smiled bitterly, but we're already out of money. I took out my phone and dialed Fu Shirlin's number. Hey, hubby, lend me 50 million, and I'll count it as your equity stake. On the other end of the line, Fu Shirlin's voice carried a hint of amusement. Gu Wei, are you treating me like an ATM? 50 million, what are you offering as collateral? I'll use my ability to cure your legs, I said confidently. Tonight when we get home, I'll give you your first acupuncture treatment. If it doesn't work, I'll stake my life on it. In my previous life, I learned a lost ancient acupuncture technique from a wandering doctor in the countryside to save my minor father who had broken his leg. I never expected that my filial piety would be rewarded. It turns out the traveling physician is actually a divine healer living in seclusion. I have fully inherited his true teachings. Fu Shirlin was silent for a moment. All right, the money will be transferred in half an hour. That night, Fu family's villa. Fu Shirlin looked at the long silver needle in my hand, his eyes flickering slightly. Do you know medicine? Long illness makes a doctor of the patient. I casually made up. While he was sizing me up, I inserted the needle into his Susonli acupoint, which had no sensation. A tingling sensation instantly shot up Fu Shirlin's calf along the meridians. The previously lifeless muscle actually twitched slightly. Fu Shirlin abruptly sat up straight, staring intently at his leg, a look of unprecedented shock and ecstasy flashing in his eyes. 3 years, his legs had hung from his body like 2 rotten pieces of wood for 3 years. For the first time, he had sensation. His voice trembled as he suddenly grabbed my hand, his eyes blazing as if he wanted to devour me. Who on earth are you? I put away the silver needle, wiped the sweat from my forehead, leaned close to his face, and gently placed a kiss on the corner of his lips. I am the most correct investment of your entire life. Shirlin, please stand up. We will step on those who look down on us together. 6. Half a year later, my electronics factory, having caught the smartphone boom, had orders lined up for the next 3 years, and its net profit increased tenfold. I became a new business elite, earning the title, Queen of Touch. Under my treatment, Fu Shirlin miraculously regained his ability to walk. When he stood up and appeared at the Fu family's board meeting, swiftly purging his second uncle's influence, the entire Beijing circle was shaken. The alliance between the Fu and Gu families was unstoppable. The Gu family regretted it. Gu Haitian and Lin Yakin repeatedly came to our house with gifts, trying to reclaim me as their adopted daughter, but were all beaten away by bodyguards. Meanwhile, Gu Jiaozhou, far away in the Daliang Mountains, had been carrying bricks at the brick factory for half a year, becoming thin, dark-skinned, and withered, her hands covered in calluses. Her hatred grew like poisonous weeds. She finally realized that mining was no longer an option. She had to change her way of thinking. She remembered that in her previous life, the reason the three Zhao brothers were able to make their fortune was not only because of the mine but also because they were ruthless and wicked. Since she couldn't take the righteous path, she would take the crooked one. She began to use the scheming tactics she had learned in the wealthy family to train those three hooligan brothers. Big brother, what future do you have if you only dare to steal chickens and dogs? Second brother, do you know what the wealthy in the city fear most? They fear scandals, and they fear those who are willing to risk their lives. Third brother, don't you love gambling? Let me teach you a trick, and we'll set up a game in the county town. Gu Jiaojiao has completely turned to the dark side. She used her beauty and cunning to lead the three brothers of the Zhao family into setting up lovers' traps and underground casinos in the county town. She actually managed to earn her first pot of gold. With money in hand, she didn't rush to enjoy herself, but instead bought a ticket to the provincial capital. Looking at the radiant me on the TV news, her eyes were filled with blood. Gu Wei, you stole my wealthy life. I'm going to destroy everything you have too. I know your secret, I know Gu Haitian's secret, and I even know the truth behind Fu Shilin's car accident. In her previous life, Gu Jiajiao served Fu Shilin closely. Although she endured immense suffering, she also learned many of the Fu family's core secrets. Among them, it was revealed that Fu Shilin's car accident back then was not actually an accident, but a deliberate act. Moreover, the true culprit was not just Fu's second uncle. There was even a contribution from the Gu family. Gu Jiajiao gave a sinister smile. She took out her newly bought phone and dialed a number. Hello, is this second Master Fu? I'd like to discuss a deal with you. Of course it's about the good news of how to get rid of Fu Shilin and Gu Wei. 7. On the balcony of the Fu family villa, I was leaning against Fu Shilin's chest, gazing at the city's night view. Honey, the Gu family has been selling off their stocks recently. Looks like they can't hold on much longer. Fu Shilin played with my hair, his tone lazy. They deserve it. I took a sip of red wine. By the way, I recently received an anonymous email claiming they have evidence that Gu Haitian was involved in your parents' murder, and they're asking for 50 million. Fu Shilin's eyes narrowed slightly. Did you find out who it is? The IP address shows a location in a small county in the southwest. I turned my head to look at him. Tell me, could it be my good little sister, Fu? Shilin sneered. Whether she's human or ghost, since she wants to die, I'll grant her wish. At that moment, the butler hurriedly ran up. Young master, young mistress, there's a woman downstairs claiming to be the young mistress's biological sister, and she brought three men who look like thugs, saying they're here to recognize family, and they brought a whole bunch of reporters. I walked to the railing and looked down. I saw Gu Jiaojiao wearing a cheap and gaudy red dress, heavily made up, crying and pleading to the reporters' cameras. Everyone, please judge fairly. Gu Wei is my biological sister, yet she abandoned our parents for wealth and status, and now wants to eliminate me completely. All her current billions are earned by sucking the blood of poor people like us. Sister, look at our mom, she's almost starving to death. Even if you just let a little drip from between your fingers, it would be enough for our family to eat for a lifetime. Behind her, Zhao Long, Zhao Hu, and Zhao Bao held up a banner. Unscrupulous female billionaire abandons her own father. Quite rhyming. Actually, the flash was flashing wildly. I watched the farce downstairs, not getting angry at all, but instead laughing out loud. Shilin, looks like someone thinks the work at the brick factory is too easy and wants to go to jail to operate a sewing machine. Fu Shilin tightened his arm around my waist and whispered in my ear. That works out well. We've had quite a few orders from prison lately. Since she's your sister-in-law, let's arrange the best single room for her. 8. Below the villa, camera flashes popped continuously. Gu Jiaojiao was crying with a heartbroken expression, while the three Zhao brothers lived like shameless ruffians who had nothing to lose, even starting to shove the security guards maintaining order. In the online live stream room, chat messages scrolled wildly. Is this what capitalists look like? Not even recognizing their own parents. Gu Wei, get out of the business world, boycott touchscreens, feel sorry for the younger sister, daring to stand up against the wealthy family just to seek justice for her parents. A hint of murderous intent flashed in Fu Shilin's eyes as he was about to raise his hand and have the bodyguards clear the scene. I held his hand. This kind of dirty work doesn't require your hands. If she wants a public trial, then I'll grant her wish. I turned back to my room, took out a loudspeaker, and opened my official live Stream on Gu Touch Tech, which has millions of followers. The title is simple, responding to everything, about my good sister and poor relatives. I appeared on the balcony in my robe, lazily looking down at the commotion below. Gu Jiao Jiao, stop crying, your makeup is all smudged, you look like a clown. My voice, amplified through the speakers and live broadcast equipment, clearly echoed throughout the entire venue. Gu Jiao Jiao was stunned for a moment, then cried even harder, sister. How could you insult me like this? I just wanted you to come home and see our mom. Go home, I sneered and snapped my fingers. The giant LED screen on the villa's exterior wall suddenly lit up. That wasn't some heartwarming home video, but rather a high-definition surveillance recording. In the video, Gu Jiao Jiao was standing in the dilapidated courtyard of the Zhao family, pointing at the three Zhao brothers and scolding them, "You bunch of trash. How much money can you make stealing chickens and dogs? I've got plenty of tricks to teach you how to swindle money." Then the scene shifted, showing her skillfully dealing cards and cheating in an underground casino, as well as the three Zhao brothers violently collecting debts and beating an old farmer until he was bleeding from the head. The entire audience was stunned. Reporters forgot to press the shutter. Gu Jiao Jiao turned pale and screamed, "It's fake. This is AI generated. Gu Wei, you framed me. Whether it's a frame-up or not, the police will decide." As my words fell, the sound of police sirens wailed and more than a dozen police cars quickly surrounded the scene. The leading officer looked stern. "Zhao Long, Zhao Hu, Zhao Bao, you are suspected of multiple crimes related to organized crime, intentional injury, and illegal casino operations. Gu Jiao Jiao, suspected of inciting crime and fraud. Take them all away." The Zhao brothers, who had just been arrogant and domineering, instantly wet themselves upon seeing the police. Zhao Long immediately knelt on the ground. "Comrade police, it's not my fault. This woman taught us to do it. She said she was a wealthy heiress, knew the law, and claimed we could make money quickly this way." "Shut up, shut your mouth." Gu Jiao Jiao frantically tried to cover Zhao Long's mouth but was handcuffed by the police instead. Before being shoved into the police car, Gu Jiao Jiao stared fixedly at me on the balcony, her gaze as venomous as a vengeful ghost. "Gu Wei, you'll die a miserable death. Do you think you've won? Second Master Fu won't let you off." I shook the wine glass in my hand and flashed a standard business smile at the live camera. "Everyone, in a society ruled by law, whether it's the wealthy elite or rural areas, breaking the law will always be punished. I have another announcement. Due to poor management, Gu Group has been fully acquired by Fu Group effective today. Mr. Gu Haitian, please take care of yourself." That night, Gu Jiao Jiao didn't just fail to ruin my reputation. Instead, she made me the spokesperson for upholding justice by sacrificing family ties and pioneer of the rule of law. As for the Gu family, they're just the next pile of trash to be dealt with. 9. Gu Haitian and Lin Yakin intercepted me at the entrance of the detention center. They were under investigation for the false accounts at the electronics factory. Although Fu Shilin had temporarily bailed them out to facilitate the acquisition, the Gu family villa had already been sealed by the court. Now, carrying two woven plastic bags, they looked as disheveled as two beggars. Seeing me get out of the Rolls-Royce, Lin Yakin fell to her knees with a thud. "Wei Wei, my dear daughter, Mom was wrong. Back then, I was blinded by greed and listened to that little bitch Gu Jiao Jiao." Gu Haitian also wept with tears streaming down his face. "Vivi, your father is old and can't handle any more turmoil. For the sake of our 20 years of father-daughter bond, please leave your father a way out. Just give us a few million to support our retirement." I stopped in my tracks and looked at this pair of foster parents who once held themselves so high. In my previous life, in order to please them, even when I was worn down by endless work, I still fought for the Gu family's interests. But what about them after I lost my usefulness? They weren't even willing to come and collect my body. I smiled and asked, "Dad, Mom, isn't it that you love my sister the most? Gu Jiao Jiao is in prison now, so you should save your money to hire a lawyer for her. That jinx, I don't have a daughter like her." Lin Yakin cursed angrily. "Wei Wei, you are our lucky star." I took out a coin from my bag and flicked it gently. The coin rolled to Gu Haitian's feet. "This will be the money I pay to buy out the debt of raising you for 20 years. As for the future, the electronics factory now belongs to the Gu family, and the Gu building also belongs to the Gu family. But not Gu Haitian's Gu, it's my Gu Wei's Gu." I stepped over that coin and walked into the building without looking back. Behind me came the desperate wails of Lin Yakin and the curses of Gu Haitian. The security guards, understanding the situation, escorted them out of the commercial district. I heard that later. They ended up on the streets, fighting over a picked-up steamed bun. Finally, she was sent to a rescue center, crammed together with those inferior people they once looked down upon the most. 10. Uncle Fu didn't stop even after Gu Jiao Jiao was imprisoned. Instead, cornered by Fortune&I, he chose to make a desperate move. In prison, Gu Jiaojiao requested to see me once, citing significant meritorious service. She said she had the real evidence that Uncle Fu had kidnapped Fortune&I's parents. I knew it was a trap, but I still went. Some festering sores must be completely lanced. In the visiting room, Gu Jiaojiao was wearing prison clothes, her hair cut short, her entire demeanor sinister and terrifying. "Gu Wei, Yuan," she spoke through the glass, her voice hoarse, "but I'm telling you, you won't live long either. One day, maybe a bomb will be planted in your car, and as soon as you start it, boom." She made an explosive gesture and burst into wild laughter. "Having you as a companion on the road to the underworld, I'm not at a loss." I watched her madness quietly, then took out my phone. "You mean, this bomb?" On the phone screen was a live feed of a bomb disposal expert defusing a bomb. The location was exactly beneath my Rolls-Royce in the parking lot. Gu Jiaojiao's laughter abruptly stopped, her eyes nearly bulging out. "How is this possible? How could you have known in advance?" "Gu Jiaojiao, your biggest stupidity is thinking everyone is as foolish as you." I put away my phone, unable to resist rolling my eyes. "The prison has been monitoring your call with Uncle Fu for a long time. You thought you were turning yourself in to earn merit. Actually, you're heading straight for death. This is what we call reoffending in prison. You'll spend the rest of your life rotting behind bars." Gu Jiaojiao trembled all over and suddenly went berserk, slamming against the glass. "Gu Wei, I'm reborn. I'm the chosen one. Why in the last life could you become a rich woman, and in this life it's still you? This isn't fair." I leaned close to the glass and whispered, "In the last life, I turned things around because I played my terrible hand well. No matter what cards you were dealt in any life, you always just want to take shortcuts. Rebirth can't save fools. Keep peddling that sewing machine inside. I'll have someone arrange extra night shifts for you. After all, you love pulling all-nighters working hard." The moment I stepped out of the prison, a loud bang echoed from the abandoned factory in the distance. Fortune&I led people to directly take down Uncle Fu Air's base. It turned out that after the bomb was disassembled, Fortune&I had it sent back to Uncle Fu Air's car in reverse. This is called reciprocity. 3 years later, touch technology went public on Nasdaq. At the bell-ringing ceremony, I stood in the center, wearing my red battle robe. Fortune&I stood beside me, his gaze so tender it could melt into water, as if he wished to be tied to me every moment, especially after I became pregnant. He hardly left my side. At the moment the bell rang, I felt a movement in my belly. After the ceremony, Fortune&I held my hand as we walked down the streets in the depths of winter. "Honey, now that the Gu family is gone, the second branch of the Fu family is gone too, and our business empire has been established. What are your plans next?" I gently touched my slightly protruding abdomen and smiled slyly. "As for the plan, first, let's bring the successor into the world, then tell him not to rely on systems or rebirth in the future. If you want something, go and seize it yourself." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. "My husband of 20 years has been keeping another woman for 15 years to force me to give up my position. He only gave me 1,000 yuan per month for living expenses to prevent the two of them from getting what they wanted. I stubbornly raised our 2 sons all by myself. In the end, I met my demise from overwork. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day I first argued with him about divorce. Both sons voluntarily asked to go with their father. I knew right then that my sons had also been reborn. When I opened my eyes again, everything went dark for a moment before gradually clearing up. The mess before me made me freeze for over 10 seconds before I remembered where I was. Isn't this the house Ryan and I bought when we got married? Later, he secretly sold the house and kicked me and our 2 sons out, forcing us to rent. We ended up in a shabby ground floor apartment in an old urban village, and we've been living there for over a decade. I touched the wound on my forehead and tried to recall which day this was. On this day in my previous life, I first discovered that Ryan was cheating on me, and in a fit of rage, I fought with him. He pushed me, and I hit my head on the coffee table, falling unconscious. I was lucky to survive. When I woke up, I insisted on getting a divorce, but all his relatives persuaded me to let it go, saying, "Just forget it. Isn't every family like this?" My sister from my maiden family couldn't stand it and said she would come to another province to pick me up, telling me there would always be a place for me at home. I was too angry to back down and insisted on holding my position as the legal wife, refusing to let the scumbag have his way, but my stubbornness didn't make their lives any harder. Ryan was shameless enough to secretly sell the house and settle down with the other woman in another place, even having a child with her. Every few years when I return home, I get a few In different remarks, after his mother died, he stopped caring about anything at all. The happier their lives are, the more I want to hold my position and cause them the biggest trouble. She raised 2 sons on her own until they reached adulthood, but she passed away from illness at an early age. During the year I was hospitalized, Ryan spent over $200,000 to send his illegitimate child, who was still in elementary school, abroad for a study tour, yet he refused to pay our son's college living expenses. Thinking of this, I got up from the floor and slowly walked to the mirror. Seeing the wound on my forehead where I had hit it, I curled my lips into a smile. Not enough. I looked around, picked up a glass of water nearby, and smashed it against my wound once more. Looking at the freshly spilled blood, I finally smiled with satisfaction. I ran out of the house anxiously and helplessly, covered in blood. This time, I won't foolishly stay trapped in the fire pit until I die. As soon as I stepped out, I ran into an elderly neighbor from the same community. I saw her and screamed in panic, "Help, help, my husband is going to kill me." The auntie was no pushover. She shouted, "What?" and pulled me into her arms. Don't worry, he wouldn't dare. I'll call the police right away. Tell me what happened." Seeing the mix of concern and barely concealed excitement on the auntie's face, I quickly buried myself in her arms and cried, afraid she might notice the corners of my mouth twitching upward. "I can't go on living. That scoundrel betrayed me and said I should make way for that woman, or else he'd kill me. I gave the James family 2 sons and served him for so many years, yet I never get a kind word all year round. Now he actually wants to buy a house for that woman outside." I cried while beating my chest and stamping my feet, my face smeared with a mix of tears and blood. It couldn't have been more pitiful. I have no doubt about the auntie's ability to spread the story. She'll definitely tell it more vividly than I did. Soon the police arrived. My eyes lit up, and I grabbed the police officer's hand, crying out again, "Comrade, you have to help me." The female officer first took me to have my wounds treated briefly, then brought me back to the police station to take my statement. Before long, Ryan, who had been summoned, appeared in the police station lobby with a dark expression. As soon as he saw the police, he immediately put on an ingratiating face and said, "Comrade, I'm sorry, we were just having a marital argument. It's nothing serious. Sorry to trouble you." The young female officer helping me with the statement was indignant and slammed the table. "You know very well whether it was an argument or domestic violence." He, on the other hand, acted with a sense of impunity. I also knew that when couples argue, the focus is on mediation. After finishing his statement, Ryan came out bowing and scraping, with a fawning expression. Yes. I will definitely change. You are absolutely right to educate me." Turning around to face me, his expression immediately changed, filled with ferocity. I curled my lips into a smile and, in front of everyone, fainted. After completing the examination at the hospital with my superb acting skills, I managed to get a diagnosis of suspected brainstem injury. I know, the divorce is settled. Even if Ryan is angry now, he wouldn't dare to lay a hand on me, and we returned home peacefully. What awaits me is a family tribunal. Around 1 o'clock the next afternoon, James's entire family showed up at our door. As soon as I entered the door, Ryan's sister, my sister-in-law, saw the bowl in my hand and immediately glared at me with a cold expression. "Lucy, my brother works hard to earn money. He keeps you at home just to cook and clean. Now that we're here, there's not even a meal for us, and we can't even get a drink of water." In my previous life, they manipulated me in the same way, before I discovered Ryan's betrayal. He did give me $3,000 every month for household expenses. This $3,000 covered the weekly living expenses for our 2 sons, as well as household necessities like rice, flour, oil, salt, utilities, gas, and social obligations like weddings and funerals. Although we had to budget carefully, it was just enough to get by, and we weren't struggling financially, so I bought into that brainwashing too, believing that Ryan was the one supporting everything in our household. But looking back now, I realize that everything in our home, from major appliances to everyday groceries like rice and oil, were all discounted items I scrambled to buy, sacrificing sleep and working tirelessly. If I hadn't been managing the household expenses, Ryan would have been smoking 50 yuan packs of cigarettes. How could 3,000 yuan possibly be enough? And not a single penny was spent on myself. I slurped up the last few noodles from my bowl, then set the chopsticks down with a clatter. Wiping my mouth, I said, "Auntie, you didn't even give me a heads up before coming. What was I supposed to cook?" I pursed my lips and gestured toward the trash can. "And I can't even offer you a drink. Ryan smashed up the whole house yesterday. This injury on my head is from a cup he threw. Auntie, I only have 3,000 a month to manage this entire household. Last year, when you had your second child, I gave you 1,200 for birthdays. When I was hospitalized, any occasion, couldn't you have returned the favor? If you give it back to me now, I'll go buy groceries for you right away. My sister-in-law was so infuriated by my words that she immediately turned her face away in anger. After playing the bad cop, Ryan's mother stepped in to play the good cop, putting on a concerned and earnest expression. Oh, come on, what couple doesn't argue? It was wrong of Ryan to hit you, but you shouldn't have called the police either. Family matters should never be taken outside the home. In my previous life, she couldn't handle the one outside and thought I was an easy target, so she often manipulated me. She brainwashed me, saying that her in-laws were all on my side and that once I endured through it, that woman would have nothing. I sneered. Not only did I say it, but I also had someone come over to check. A commotion echoed in the hallway as the neighbor arrived with her old friends. This is the one, that bastard betrayed me and hit me, hitting his wife. I don't know how his mother raised him. My mother-in-law's face instantly changed. I presented the injury assessment from yesterday, one by one. The pictures of the bruises were shocking. Don't try to persuade me anymore. I'm definitely getting a divorce. If I don't, I'll sue him. Ryan was instantly furious. Fine, let's get divorced. I've long wanted to end this with you. My mother-in-law didn't want a divorce. She also knew that her son was almost 30 and had nothing to his name except a marital home that had drained the family's savings. He would never find another foolish woman like me, willing to endure hardship without complaint. I want to live with Grandma. I am too. I want to go with Dad and Grandma. The two sons had appeared at the doorstep at some point. The three of them exchanged glances. In that split second, a sudden understanding dawned upon them. I know. My son has also been reborn. In my previous life, I lived with my two sons as if walking on thin ice. Even working 3 jobs day and night wasn't enough to support the 2 children. While other children went on trips during winter and summer vacations, my 2 children could only work part-time jobs during their holidays. By the time he reached his teens, when his body was growing rapidly, he couldn't get enough meat at every meal, and he would get hungry quickly. He would get up at night to eat a few slices of the cheapest biscuits and then fill his stomach with water. In high school, the teacher recognized his talent and guided his studies, suggesting that we find a tutor for him outside of school, but the family had no money. Despite having the potential to get into a top university, he ended up attending an ordinary school. Not to mention, whenever he had a headache or a fever, it was even more difficult to endure, one after another. How could the 2 sons not hate? The mother-in-law, who had been hesitant before, broke into a wide smile upon seeing her 2 grandsons. Hey, my 2 big grandsons, Grandma hasn't spoiled you for nothing. Divorce, it must be done. The mother-in-law, who had been mocked and put on the spot by everyone, was still hesitating. The defection of her 2 grandsons seemed to wash away her shame in an instant, and she made the decision. Ryan looked at me and smiled triumphantly, as if to say, look, without me you have nothing, not even a son. I almost laughed. He has no idea how much it costs to raise a child. The house wasn't in my name, and I paid for the renovations. When it came to dividing the assets, Ryan's mother even had the nerve to say, the house was bought by our James family. At most, we'll give you $30,000, take it or leave it, or you can just take the furniture. The furniture was almost 10 years old, and my family lived far away. She was certain I wouldn't take it. I'm not going to indulge her. I directly called the neighborhood aunties to come over and take whatever they liked. For the items no one wanted, I had the scrap collector come and take them away. Ryan watched as the furniture was moved out piece by piece, his face turning green with anger. Lucy, you really have a vicious heart. I rolled my eyes at him. Would leaving my dowry for you and that woman be considered not vicious? I moved out so the other woman could come in. After the divorce certificate was issued, Ryan quickly set the wedding date. On the day they got married, my sister from my family also came. Early in the morning, they set off firecrackers, beat gongs, and played drums on the street and downstairs in the neighborhood. All the neighbors knew Ryan was getting remarried, so it wasn't really a surprise. She handed out candy to everyone she met, beaming brighter than a flower. If you didn't know better, you'd think she was the one getting married. Passers-by who didn't know the situation would ask for candy to share in the joy, saying, something happy at home. Congratulations, she grinned from ear to ear, grabbing a handful and stuffing it into their hands. Yes, something happy. My sister got divorced. After speaking, she pointed with her hand, signaling to look up. She hung a banner on the door that read, celebrating my sister's divorce from the heartless man, and celebrating the ex-husband's second marriage. But the newly arrived one refused to keep a low profile and insisted on entering in a bridal sedan chair through the main gate of the community, only to run into the procession my sister had hired. Seeing her arrive, my sister turned around and waved her hand, saying, come on, start the music, welcome the bride. Everyone could understand what was happening just by looking. With the help of the well-informed aunties in the same neighborhood, everyone was thoroughly enjoying the drama. It was time to step out of the sedan chair and for the bride to cross the fire basin, but Judy refused to show herself. A faint, tearful voice could be heard from inside the sedan. Go As the main character, Ryan felt as if he was being stabbed by everyone. Stares, pointed at and ridiculed, completely humiliated. The two sons hugged their grandmother's waist and frowned. "Grandma, Mom is going too far. How could she do this?" Sitting in my sister's car across the street, I took in everything and couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat. At that moment, I recalled the time before my wedding in my previous life when my sister came to my room. Holding my hand with a worried expression, she said, "Lucy, you were such a well-behaved child when you were young. Why are you so stubborn now, insisting on marrying someone from another city? If you get bullied in the future, your family won't be able to help you." At that time, I didn't understand, couldn't comprehend the sorrow in her eyes. Only now do I realize that the bond of blood is the hardest to sever. Although I have left, the benefits I gave to my aunts were not for nothing. They promised to keep an eye on whether my two sons were being bullied and to frequently report back to me. I had just left, not even enjoying 2 peaceful days at home, when my aunt came to complain to me. "That new wife Ryan married is really not an easy one," she said. "Women are meant to be spoiled, not treated like housekeepers. Ryan has to cook for her every day after work. If he gets off work late, they just eat out." My aunt was standing up for me, but I actually felt quite happy hearing it. "Ryan's new wife is named Judy. She stopped studying after high school and started working early. She's only 21 this year. Her social circle isn't high enough, so she doesn't get to meet many quality men. When she came across Ryan, who owns a house, she thought he was a great catch and couldn't wait to marry him. Although Judy isn't exceptionally beautiful, she makes up for it with her youth and ability to act cute. Ryan is willing to spoil her and spend money, but he never stops to consider whether his wallet can handle it. He can manage cooking for a week, but there's no way he could keep it up for a month, especially when I was at home before. I took care of everything without him having to worry. How could he possibly handle such hardship now? Sure enough, it wasn't long before my aunt told me with a gleeful expression that Ryan had been going grocery shopping every day recently. He doesn't understand that good produce requires waking up early to grab, and cheap vegetables require waiting for the right moment to snag a bargain, but he seems to be enjoying himself, even updating his social media feed. It was a picture of him and his new wife shopping at the supermarket, with snacks, premium fruits, and small portions of organic vegetables wrapped in plastic wrap in their cart. A scene of joy and harmony, warm and happy. I knew it wouldn't be long before they started arguing, but I never imagined their first argument would come so quickly. Their first argument was when my son connected a call and left the smartwatch in the living room for me to hear. "Just buying groceries, how much could it possibly cost? I give you $4,000 a month, isn't that enough? Can't you cut back on the snacks? Didn't you eat the snacks too? Now you're blaming me. When you married me, didn't you promise to treat me well for a lifetime? Now you're even complaining about me having a few snacks. If I had known it would be like this, I should have just found someone my own age." As she spoke, Judy began to cry. Seeing her tears, Ryan's heart softened, and he lowered his voice to comfort her. All right, we've been eating out too much this month. Next month, we'll cook at home, you buy the groceries, and I'll do the cooking." Okay. The two of them got all lovey-dovey again and made up. I couldn't help but sneer when I heard that on the phone. Two people who have never been burdened by the daily grind of life have no sense of reverence. Life will teach them a lesson sooner or later. The peaceful days didn't last long before Ryan's family started causing trouble again. The money Ryan gave Judy was meant to cover all the household expenses. As a result, she thought that preparing just 1 week's living expenses would be enough for the two children to eat and live at school. But she didn't know that when children returned to the boarding school on Sundays, their families would also prepare extra snacks, fruits, and milk for them to eat between meals. Naturally, the two sons didn't mention it to her, nor did they bother Ryan with the matter. They simply lowered their heads in silence when other children at school curiously asked why they hadn't brought any snacks or fruits. When the children went home and mentioned that the two brothers from James' family had no fruits or milk and had to eat others' food, the parents naturally understood what was going on. Aunts taking their grandchildren out for a walk ran into Ryan and half-jokingly, half-admonishingly said, "Ryan, they say that with a stepmother comes a stepfather. If you can't handle it, why not send the two kids to their mother?" Ryan was scolded again and was extremely annoyed. He had grown tired of cooking, so he scolded Judy and completely dumped the household chores on her. Under the guise of not having enough money, he claimed he would work more overtime, leaving Judy to take on all the household responsibilities. They brainwashed her again. Look at your group of girlfriends, those still working in factories, living in dormitories, or renting places. Which one of them has a life as good as yours? Look at you, living in a big house in the county town, no need to wake up early, just cook a few meals. This family has always been good at playing the game of slapping someone and then giving them a sweet date. They used to PUA me, and now they're doing the same to Judy. To put it bluntly, they're just selfish and only care about themselves. Time flew by, and soon it was the new year. In her previous life, Judy's obsession was for Ryan to take her home and have his mother acknowledge her, rather than being without any formal status. Now that she had achieved her wish and become a legitimate daughter-in-law of the James family, she genuinely considered herself a part of the James family and was more receptive to their manipulative brainwashing. On New Year's Eve, Ryan video called me, I answered, and two reluctant sons appeared on the screen. Before I could speak, my mother-in-law smiled and said, "Oh, these two kids, it's only right to wish their mom a happy new year. Why are they so unwilling? I've spoiled them, Lucy, don't take it to heart." Ryan also chimed in, pretending to be earnest. "That's right, Ethan, Harry, wish your mom a happy new year, and I'll give you big red envelopes." Watching the smug expressions of Ryan and his family on my phone, I couldn't help but laugh with joy. My son's acting is really good. The less close they are to me, the more they integrate into the James family, and the easier it will be to turn the James family upside down. My son reluctantly said Happy New Year to me before quickly turning his face away, but the James family felt proud and smiled as they bid me farewell. As I listened to the background voice saying, "Here, 2 boys, 200 each," I also smiled and said goodbye to them. Putting down my phone, I met my mother's disdainful expression at the dinner table. She curled her lips and said, "Ungrateful child, all that love was wasted on you." I smiled and picked up a piece of meat for her, soothingly saying, "All right, they'll understand when they grow up, then." I quickly changed the subject and asked her, "Is Uncle Leo setting up a factory? Do you want me to go help?" My mother was taken aback. "How did you know?" "Of course I know. In my previous life, my mother also asked me if I wanted to earn some extra money. To be honest, the pay wasn't low, calculated monthly. It was even higher than Ryan's salary, but Ryan didn't want me to. He felt it was better for me to stay at home and take care of the household chores, so I let it go. Little did I know that later, Uncle Leo made a fortune through the factory, and its scale grew larger and larger. The employees who had worked overtime and weathered the tough times with the factory from the beginning were all given shares, earning tens of thousands in dividends every year. Housewives with their own income all stood a little taller at home day after day. I listened to Ryan's constant nagging. "If you had been more diligent about going to work, you'd have shares by now, and things wouldn't be so tough." At home, after he kicked me out of the house, I had to survive on just $1,000, and I regretted it even more. My mother hesitated. "Uncle Leo did ask, but I think it's too exhausting. There are hardly any workers, and everyone has to do the work of 2. It's fine, Mom, I can handle it. I want to earn money to support you in your old age," I interrupted with a smile. Compared to the miserable days of my previous life, being away from Ryan, not having to take care of children, and earning money on my own now is absolutely amazing. At the beginning of the year, I returned to Ryan's city and started working again. Uncle Leo joked that I worked like a starving ghost devouring food. I smiled without saying a word. He wasn't wrong. If I had been able to secure this job and have my own income in my previous life, I wouldn't have faced the hardships and struggles that followed. Now that I have regained what was lost, and it didn't come easily, I naturally cherish it all the more. Time flew by, and the 2 children reached their 3rd year of junior high that year. Ryan's mother fell ill. In my previous life, Ryan and I also started living separately at this point. By this time, Ryan and Judy were no longer hiding their interactions from me, even going so far as to make calls and video chats at home. Not only did I have to take care of the household, but I also had to care for my mother-in-law in the hospital, which eventually led to a complete breakdown. After the confrontation with Ryan, he soon sold the house without my consent and kicked me and our son out. Now, it's Judy's turn to endure all of this. Nearly a year has passed, and she has long been worn down by life, from a carefree young girl who only needed to be provided for into a resentful woman, money that only stretches with careful budgeting, an irritating stepson who acts like a green tea, and a husband who does nothing but lays around when he comes home. None of this is the married life she wanted. Now that my mother-in-law is sick, no matter how unwilling she is, she has to go and serve by the bedside. 2 people who already disliked each other being forced to share a room naturally led to even more conflicts. At this point, my mother-in-law started to remember my good qualities and sent Ryan to ask me to take care of her for a few days. I was shocked by this family's shamelessness, but still agreed with a smile. After all, we were once family. It's only right to help in times of trouble. A year without seeing each other, I had eaten well, drank well, and had less to worry about, so I looked rosy-cheeked and much more energetic, which was a far cry from how he remembered me. Now that I was being so reasonable, he looked at me with a completely different expression. "Lucy, I'm really starting to regret it now," I smiled as I saw him off, then quickly grabbed a disinfectant wipe and scrubbed my hands over and over where he had touched me. That guy is a jinx to his wives. Whoever ends up With him is bound to have bad luck. It's just plain unlucky. When I brought the thermal container to my ex-mother-in-law's hospital room, she was even more delighted than if she were seeing her own daughter. "Oh my, Lucy, come here, sit down quickly." As I laid out the prepared stew and nutritious meals one by one, the other patients in the room were filled with envy. "Oh, is this your daughter?" It's true that one's own daughter is always closer. "I think she's much better than the daughter-in-law who visited you the other day." I smiled without saying a word. While Ryan's mother's eyes flickered with a hint of embarrassment, I went along with the conversation to ease the tension. "It's only right for me to call you Mom." Throughout the afternoon in the hospital room, she spent the whole time complaining to me, mostly about how Judy didn't meet her expectations in so many ways and how poorly things were at home, which couldn't compare to me at all. She's still young. In a couple of years, she'll be able to handle everything. People are just cheap. It's only when you lose something and have a comparison that you remember how good things used to be. But at their core, they are absolutely selfish and self-serving. The James family is all the same. Back when Judy and Ryan were fooling around outside, he liked her for being young and lively. Ryan's mother liked her son, so even if she had no choice, she could only tacitly agree. Now that they've brought her into the family and found no benefit for themselves, with her having lost her value, they've grown to dislike her. When leaving, Ryan's mother held my hand, full of regret. "I really shouldn't have agreed to let you two separate." Judy had a couple of peaceful days, and then my son told her that I was taking care of her in the hospital. Judy exploded instantly. "My son sent me a message, telling me to leave quickly." I retreated from the room and hid in the distance to observe. I saw Judy storm into the ward furiously, followed by a loud bang, which must have been the sound of her knocking over the insulated container I had left on the table. "I've been taking care of your entire James family, and now you regret it. You think Lucy is better. Let me tell you, no way." The room was once again filled with the sound of crashing and smashing, giving the onlookers plenty of drama to feast on. That day, I received a text from Ryan asking if I would be willing to remarry him, if only for the sake of the child. "Yes, we will remarry, but not now." Ryan's mother, having lost all face at the hospital, could no longer stay and had to transfer to another hospital, costing yet another sum of money. Judy couldn't possibly take care of it anymore, and to avoid suspicion, I definitely won't go either at this point. Only her two eldest grandsons were back from school, taking turns to stay with her for a while. They casually mentioned that the school required extra tutoring. How could she possibly disagree? But the money in James's family was now controlled by Judy, and she didn't want to follow Ryan's mother's wishes, so she flatly refused. In Ryan's eyes, she showed no respect to her parents and mistreated her children, completely extinguishing his feelings for Judy. To force Judy into a divorce, he stopped giving her living expenses and continued to abuse her verbally and physically. I calculated the time and thought it was about time to go find her. In the coffee shop, Judy sat across from me, looking completely different from the last time I saw her a year ago. Her hair was tied into a low ponytail hanging down her back, but two strands of hair fell loose at her temples, suggesting she had left in a hurry and hastily tied her hair up. Most importantly, there were dark circles under her eyes, and her gaze was dull and lifeless, making her look nothing like a girl in her early 20s, more like she had aged 10 years. Seeing the hostility in her eyes, I smiled and said, "Actually, we're in the same boat. Both victims deceived by Ryan. You've noticed it too, right? What he says and what he does are completely different. Don't think I'm here to confront you. Just look at the mess James's family is in. Do you really think I still have any feelings for them? I have no choice. My two sons are with James's family, and this is just how my life has turned out. You're only 22 years old. If you turn back now, your life is still your own. You thought you married for love, but look what happened. If you get pregnant, your life will become even harder, whether you divorce or not. When James' family property is divided 3 ways, how much do you think your child would get? It's not worth throwing away your entire life. In her previous life, this was exactly when she got pregnant. If she gives birth to the child, she will compete with me for the inheritance. Judy figured it out. She initiated the divorce. She came into the marriage with nothing, so naturally, she will leave with nothing. I took the child and asked Ryan for $30,000 in emotional distress compensation. I nodded. That's the price for women abandoned by Ryan. As a fellow woman, seeing Judy's pale and fragile appearance, a trace of sympathy welled up in my heart. Wasting my youth on this family and damaging my health in the process is truly not worth it. After they divorced, Ryan immediately proposed getting remarried. I refused, only agreeing to return to the family but not to remarry. To show his sincerity, Ryan temporarily agreed to this as well. Day after day, He buys groceries, cooks, and does the household chores. I focus on working diligently and taking good care of my 2 sons. In this life, I have the means to afford the tutoring classes my sons couldn't attend before. Even if they refuse, I insist they go. What was lacking in the past life, I will make up for doubly in this one. I never ask Ryan for a single cent when I spend money on my son. Whether he uses that money for groceries or daily expenses, I never ask, and sometimes I even spend my own money to stock the fridge with good things. Now he's eagerly wanting to hand over the money for me to manage. I still refuse. Now, remarrying and managing money are like a piece of meat dangling in front of him. He only runs forward when he wants to eat. Once obtained, they start to slack off. Human nature is cheap, and Ryan is outrageously cheap. Since her last illness, Ryan's mother's health has been getting worse and worse. She spends half of every month lying in bed. She doesn't have long to live. I take care of her at her bedside even more diligently than Ryan does, and every day she hopes that Ryan and I will remarry soon. Mom, your health is the most important thing. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. The examination revealed that she had mid to late stage lung cancer. Chemotherapy could cost hundreds of thousands and might not even cure her, while conservative treatment would only give her until the end of the year. I went to inquire about commercial insurance, but they explicitly told me they don't accept people who are already sick. I ran up and down for the old lady's illness, and everyone saw it. A neighbor aunt saw me and asked in confusion, "That family treated you like that? Why are you still coming back to jump into the fire pit? Why can't you think clearly?" I smiled without answering. How could they know that the foolish woman in front of them, who was doing her utmost for the in-laws who had hurt her, was planning revenge? Even Ryan was moved. At the dinner table, his face was full of remorse. "Lucy, I was too foolish before. I couldn't see that you were the only one who truly cared for me. From now on, let's live together as a family of 4, okay?" As he spoke from the depths of his emotions, his eyes actually reddened, and tears fell. I watched that crocodile tear and exchanged a glance with my 2 sons, feeling not the slightest bit of emotion. We all knew he wasn't truly remorseful. He was just afraid that we would abandon him now, afraid that I, who can earn money, would live well on my own. But both my son and I have been reborn. We are demons who have crawled up from hell. How could we soften our hearts because of his few words? The kind are bullied, the tame are ridden. Ryan's mother passed away as expected. Ryan and I also got our marriage certificate and remarried. That night he held me and cried bitterly, confessing his mistakes, but I didn't want to hear any of it. I endured his hypocritical tears and gently patted his back. "Ryan, I was so scared when Mom passed away. It was so sudden. After going through so much, we finally have a stable little home. If we suddenly get some incurable illness, that's one thing, but what I fear most is not having the money for treatment. Should we buy some insurance?" He thought it made perfect sense and readily agreed. That weekend, we went to the insurance company and purchased a high-value insurance policy. Watching Ryan finally sign his name on the contract, my heart, which had been hanging in suspense, finally settled completely. From then on, I quietly awaited the arrival of that day. According to my son's account, as their university's opening day approached, in order to save on travel expenses, they chose to take a bus to register. However, the bus was involved in a chain collision on the road, plummeted off a cliff, and there were no survivors. In this life, with the help of expensive private tutors I hired every month, my son's academic performance improved by leaps and bounds. We both got into prestigious universities. Making up for the regrets of our previous life, I took my son and went ahead first, tricking him into the car under the pretense of a family trip. "Hey Ryan, I bought your ticket, hurry up and get here." Our son's only wish after getting into college, and you dare to make excuses. "No, this is the fastest one. Just sleep on the train tonight, and you'll arrive tomorrow, if I don't see you tomorrow. I swear I won't let this go." The next day, the 3 of us gathered in front of the TV and finally got to see that news as we had hoped. The mother and her 2 children wept with joy, holding each other and crying and wiping away their tears. They looked out the window just as the sky cleared, stretching cloudless for miles. After Ryan's death, I went to the insurance company to collect the substantial compensation. Everything was clean, with nothing left to investigate. It wasn't until the list of victims was released that my sister-in-law learned the news from the media. She immediately came to our door, demanding that my son and I leave, shouting that this was her brother's house. Her voice was so loud that neighbors from across the hall and the floors above and below came out to see what was happening. After hearing her, a young woman rolled her eyes and said, "Miss, do you even know the law? They are the legal first heirs. If you try to kick them out, they can sue you for illegally occupying someone else's property. You know." Oh, I remember her. A few years ago, when James divorced her and brought the other woman home, she was there too. TSK. I always thought this family was no good. How disgraceful to try and kick someone out when they're taking care of both of your James family's children. They really have no shame. I stood in the doorway, smiling at her without saying a word. With so many people chiming in, each comment was enough to make her lose face and hang her head in shame. In the end, she simply plopped down on the ground, wailing at the top of her lungs and started acting crazy. Why is my life so bitter? My mother worked so hard to raise my brother, and now that she's gone, she left nothing behind. It's all been taken by this wicked woman. Mom, take me with you. It wasn't until the police arrived that this farce came to an end. To avoid her coming back to pester me, I quickly sold the house at a low price, took the money, and left for good. 4 years later, my son graduated from a prestigious university and landed a job at a major company. I also earned high annual dividends by investing early in Uncle Leo's factory. We all have a bright future ahead. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. As the female lead in an abusive novel, I unexpectedly bound a super masculine system. When the system takes effect, my combat skills and ability to clap back passively reach their peak. Values. The male lead's green tea childhood friend falsely accused me of pushing her down the stairs. I rolled up my sleeves, dragged her back upstairs, and then gracefully extended my foot, sending the green tea flying through the air in a beautiful parabola. Daring to slander your father. A left kick and a right kick. Take my flying kicks. You'll behave once you're knocked down. The male lead used underhanded methods to ruin my reputation. I directly brought the recording and turned the tables, making the male lead enjoy a prison meal. Sorry, but standing up for my rights starts with me. My biased father, my harsh mother, my broken home, all those who try to hurt me. I won't let a single one get away. Woo. Dylan, don't be angry. Miss Heidi probably didn't mean to push me down the stairs. Maybe she just misunderstood our relationship. There's really nothing between Dylan and me. Miss Heidi, please don't overthink it. I don't blame you this time. It's my fault for showing up in front of you and getting in your way. I apologize. I won't appear in front of Dylan again. The woman crying with pear-like tears before me is Mary, my boyfriend Dylan's childhood sweetheart. At this moment, she is hiding in Dylan's arms, her almond-shaped eyes red and filled with mist. Her hands are tightly clutching the hem of Dylan's clothes, and her whole body is trembling slightly, as pure and innocent as a bullied little rabbit. Heidi, who gave you the nerve to bully him? You're as disgusting as a shrew. Apologize to him. Dylan's sharp gaze is fixed on me. He gently pats Mary's back to comfort her, while his eyes hold an unmistakable mix of disgust and coldness as he looks at me. The pain of being wronged envelopes me once again. I want to explain, I want to scream, but I can't, because I'm just a tragic heroine in a heartbreaking story, and tragic heroines don't have a voice. I can only wear a look of stubbornness on my innocent little face, my heart aching unbearably because the male lead doesn't believe me. Then I will stubbornly refuse to apologize and turn away without a word. After enduring the male lead's revenge and suffering all the grievances, I will succumb to depression and take my own life. Finally, I'll wait quietly for the male lead to discover the truth and be filled with regret. I only lost my life, but the male lead lost his beloved. That's probably how absurd and ridiculous the plot is. Just as I was about to tremble with my emaciated body, looking at Dylan with utter disappointment, and say, so this is how you see me in your heart. Fine, I did it. Are you satisfied now? I hate you. Just as I was about to get slapped by Dylan, covering my little face and leaving heartbroken, a voice suddenly echoed in my mind. Ding, congratulations, host, for binding the Super Alpha system. The Super Alpha system will now conduct a comprehensive optimization for you. Ding. Detected that the host's physical strength is too low. The system will automatically enhance your physical fitness. Ding. Detected that the host's moral value is too high. The system will automatically weaken the host's moral framework. Drip. Detected host's empathy value is too high, automatically reducing host's empathy. Drip. Optimization complete. Detected current situation complies with the hyper-masculine system usage regulations. The hyper-masculine system will now officially activate. So my trembling, outstretched finger suddenly transformed into a shocking slap. Smack. It landed on Dylan's handsome face, which carried 3 parts coldness and 7 parts indifference, leaving 5 deep finger marks. Dylan's expression cracked. Go to hell. How dare you slander me? Who do you think you are to slander me? With such a wide staircase opening, is she an elephant that I could push her down? Can't you check the surveillance footage yourself? And you call me a shrew? Well, if I'm a shrew, I'll beat you to death. How dare you slander me, you brainless idiot? I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. The look of sadness and restraint on my face had long been replaced by disdain and anger, and all the grievances I didn't know how to express turned into a continuous barrage of verbal attacks. Please, he slandered me, so isn't it only right that I hit him? Considering all the previous incidents, I've actually held back quite a bit. Slap, slap, slap asterisk. With one hand gripping Dylan's hair and the other slapping his face repeatedly, I cursed with such fervor and satisfaction that spit flew everywhere. Heidi, stop it, how dare you, Dylan, brother. Dylan was so enraged by my beating that his handsome face was now completely swollen. As a result, he finally let go of Mary. He covered his head with both hands, hastily backing away while roaring in anger, looking both ridiculous and pathetic. Mary, caught off guard, was thrown to the ground by Dylan, and the intense pain made her cry out in agony. And you, big sister, you like rolling down the stairs, right? Come on, roll, I'll personally take you for a roll. Hearing Mary's cries of pain, I quickly shifted my focus. I grabbed Mary by the hair and swiftly dragged her up the stairs. I moved with such speed and strength, it was like flying. Let me go, Dylan, Dylan, save me. The pain from her scalp made Mary struggle violently. She was genuinely calling for help now. She never expected that, unlike before. I wouldn't just put on a facade of endurance and leave in despair, but would even dare to lay hands on her. Right in front of Dylan, but unfortunately, Dylan was still lost in the tragic reality that his little canary had violently assaulted him, and he hadn't even been able to fight back. He had no intention of paying any attention to Mary. Get down, you. Upon reaching the top floor, I gracefully kicked Mary. Instantly, Mary was sent flying like a kite with its string cut, tracing a beautiful parabola through the air. Mary out. Only after confirming that Mary was truly knocked out did I leisurely walk over to Dylan. You crazy woman, what are you going to do? If you dare act recklessly again, I will make you pay the price. Snapping back to reality, Dylan saw me walking towards you, ran and instinctively covered his swollen, pig-like face, taking 3 steps back for every one forward. Watching him try to act calm while his body trembled uncontrollably, I suddenly found it all so laughable. This man, who once seemed so imposing, who had forced me countless times to say I loved him, only to hurt, doubt, and slander me again and again, was nothing more than a pathetic, worthless piece of trash. What did I ever see in him? How could I have ever thought this brainless fool was someone worth entrusting my life to? My emotions began to fluctuate wildly, and I slapped Dylan hard across the face once again. Amid his screams, I turned around gracefully and walked away with an air of nonchalance. Heidi, I won't let you get away with this. If you leave now, don't even think about coming back. For the rest of your life, I'll make sure you come crawling back on your knees, begging me. Don't worry, the only relationship we'll have from now on is me beating you up every time I see you. Ignoring Dylan's furious roars behind me, I began trying to communicate with the so-called system in my mind. What exactly are you? Everything that happened today was just too surreal. I actually hit Dylan and Mary, and not only am I not afraid of the revenge they mentioned, I even feel a secret sense of excitement. This is so strange. My name is Heidi, and I'm the typical tragic heroine of a heartbreaking story. My mother died from complications during childbirth, and my father quickly remarried a stepmother. The stepmother brought with her a son about my age, who was my father's illegitimate child. My dear father and stepmother would gently call him their precious son, buy him lots of delicious food, and go out of their way to make him happy. All that was left for me were my father's constant neglect and my stepmother's subtle abuse. I used to firmly believe that family bonds were above everything else. If my father didn't give me tuition money, it was okay. I could work 2 jobs a day to earn it myself. If my stepmother often scolded or hit me when I was young, it was okay. Maybe she was just afraid I would affect my younger brother. Not that she disliked me. I could leave this home. Everything was fine as long as my family was happy and safe. Maybe then they would share a little love with me. That's what I thought back then. At this moment, Dylan appeared, just like in all domineering CEO romance dramas. The innocent girl forced to work at a nightclub to pay for her expensive tuition caught the CEO's eye at first sight when he came to discuss business. Coincidentally, the CEO was drugged by a friend's scheme and stumbled into the female lead's break room, where he forced himself on her. Clearly, I, who inexplicably lost my innocence, am the biggest victim. But the next day, Dylan, who had woken up, threw a stack of cash in my face along with vicious insults. You'd better forget everything that happened last night. If I find out you threw yourself at me on purpose, I'll make your life a living hell. The pain of being forced and the grievance of being misunderstood threw me into immense turmoil. At that moment, I didn't know how to explain myself. I could only shout through tears, "You bastard. Money can't buy my dignity," before turning and running away. The Following story is quite cliché. Dylan checked the surveillance footage and realized he had misunderstood me, but my resilient, delicate demeanor left him utterly unable to forget me. Thus, he began pursuing me under the guise of getting to know me, though in reality, it was more like coercion. Oh my god, I must be insane, thinking back on how I rejected the money Dylan had thrown in my face earlier. I was absolutely tormented with regret. Where on earth did I get so much moral sense? I've already slept with him, and not reporting him for rape is already me being kind, yet I didn't even take the money. What on earth was I thinking? Before I could finish regretting, the system's voice rang out. I am the Super Masculinity System 3321. My mission is to inject super masculine genes into individuals with an excessive sense of morality. When the host finds themselves in a situation of isolation or misunderstanding, the system will automatically activate to help the host escape the predicament. The cold mechanical voice replied. Then, why was I chosen? I felt a bit flattered, at least for now. 3321 truly has the ability to help me avoid harm. If I had possessed the system earlier, perhaps much of the previous suffering truly wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, 3321 did not answer my question. Oh well, since it's here, I'll make the best of it. I think this might be an opportunity given to me by fate, and I need to seize it properly. Heidi, why are you coming home at this hour? Didn't Mr. Goo come with you? Father's fawning voice rang out. Actually, I had always been very resistant to Dylan's pestering, but after Dylan investigated my family background, he threatened to make my father lose his job, forcing me to become his pet. Out of consideration for so-called family ties, I had no choice but to obediently nod and agree. Without saying a word, I opened my small storage room and began to pack my belongings. There wasn't much, mainly my mother's keepsakes and some school supplies. The room is very small, filled with things this family has discarded. After all, it's just a storage room. Allowing me to live here is already an act of great mercy on their part, because I don't deserve a room of my own. That's what my stepmother said. Are they really family? Why are you packing your things? Is it because young Master Goo wants you to move into his place? Great, great. My daughter is really making something of herself. Ha ha ha. Since you're already living together, it's time for both families to have a meal and discuss the bride price, don't you think? Heidi Bob's voice was filled with uncontrollable excitement, the calculation in his eyes practically overflowing. He didn't notice the fresh bruises from my fall or my current silence at all. After all, in his eyes, I've always just been a tool to be exchanged for profit. Oh, my Heidi is really promising. Auntie has always had high hopes for you. Then shouldn't your brother's job also be arranged by young Master Goo? We're all family. No need to speak like strangers. My stepmother Rita also came close to me, speaking with a smile as if she were a loving mother genuinely happy for her daughter's happiness, completely forgetting the abuse she subjected me to when I was young. Yeah, sis, since your husband is so rich, why not ask him to give me some? You wouldn't be that stingy, would you? This is Leo, the good brother who clapped and cheered when I was bullied, and even wanted to secretly take intimate photos of me to sell for money. I had very little luggage, so I finished packing quickly, holding my suitcase. I coldly watched these chattering beasts, and surprisingly, I couldn't even feel sorrow anymore. Right when Dylan chased me all the way to my home, they were afraid that I had caused trouble, calling me a worthless burden and a bitch, saying I'm not their concern. They just stood by and watched Dylan have his bodyguards tie me up, but after paparazzi caught Dylan taking me to high-end venues, they started calling me several times a day to check on me. Seeing my continued silence, they finally realized something was wrong. You weren't dumped by that rich inn master, were you? How much did he give you as a breakup fee? You're not thinking of keeping it all for yourself, are you? Leo was the first to speak, confidently reaching out his hand to me, demanding the so-called breakup fee. His gaze made me feel like a worthless object, filled with utter disgust. That's right, I broke up with Dylan, and I was the one who dumped him, I answered with a smile, my voice trembling slightly as if on the verge of tears. I still want to see if they would care about me, even if they just asked what happened to me, or if I still have a place to go. That would be enough, but what greeted me was only their sudden change in expressions. You worthless burden, how dare you? Go apologize to Dylan right now. Even if you have to kneel, you must beg him to come back, or I'll beat you to death. Bob was the first to erupt. He suddenly raised his hand, ready to strike me across the face. His eyes were filled with rage, angry that I could no longer bring them any benefits. Beep, detected that the current situation complies with the usage regulations of the Super Alpha system. The Super Alpha system is now activated. The slight guilt and sorrow that had just welled up in my heart were immediately replaced by fury. I gripped my father's wrist tightly and slapped him across the face in return. Bob, you little bitch, have you lost your mind? How dare you hit your own Father, my stepmother's scream rang out. I ignored it and took another step forward, stomping hard on Bob's stomach. Ah, Bob screamed in agony, clutching his stomach. Turning around, I grabbed Rita by the hair again, slapping her face with heavy, rapid blows. Rita screamed loudly from the beating, but to her dismay, she realized my grip on her was like an iron clamp, impossible to break free from. You worthless piece of trash. How dare you act like you're entitled to anything from me? You never fed me, never clothed me, and yet you have the nerve to suck me dry, cheating, domestic violence, and even selling your own daughter. Where do you get the audacity to yell at me, your own father, and you? How many times have you abused me since I was a child, knowing you were the other woman and still acting like one, disrespectful in your old age, just because I saw you having an affair with Uncle Chin next door when I was a child? You've been abusing me ever since. It's a miracle of life that a social parasite like you is still alive. You're a morally bankrupt, promiscuous bitch, and you still dare to call yourself my mother. If a scumbag like Dylan were offered to you, would you want him? He's so neurotic and you're so desperate. Wouldn't you two be a perfect match? That way, your son could directly inherit his company and become the boss. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I didn't stop my movements, using both my hands and feet to lash out at this adulterous couple. At the same time, I poured out all the abuse and grievances I had suffered over the years, the fear of being lured out of the house at the age of 5 and almost being abandoned, the grievances of being made to eat leftovers and do household chores, all under the guise of building my character, the injustice of being beaten and vented upon whenever they were the slightest bit displeased, the audacity of threatening me to hand over all my hard-earned money, forcing me to willingly let them suck me dry, and even the filthiness of threatening to cause a scene at my school to make me drop out if I didn't give them money, just so they could sell me off to some middle-aged man to be his mistress. Why did I ever feel sorry for these so-called family members of mine? Why did I ever compromise myself to please Dylan? It's all just a joke now. What? So that's why that Chin guy keeps sending things to our house? Rita, you bitch. How dare you cheat on me? I'll kill you. Honey, let me explain. I didn't do anything. It's all this little brat making things up. Bob quickly grasped the key point from my words. The anger of being cheated on finally gave him back his strength. He directly grabbed Rita by the neck, then he turned to carefully examine Leo's appearance, recalling some details from back then, and so, he sadly realized that Leo might not actually be his biological son, that he might have been raising another man's child for over a decade. Yes. One of the reasons Rita abused me was that I came home early once and discovered her affair with someone else, even though I never said anything to avoid hurting my father. Rita never stopped her abuse toward me, watching Bob furiously turn over, ride on top of Rita, and take over my task of slapping her. I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of satisfaction, noticing that Leo, who was standing nearby, had finally snapped out of the series of sudden events. He was so enraged that he prepared to lunge at me. I quickly opened the front door and began to cry out, "There's no justice, help, my father found out my stepmother is cheating and is trying to beat her to death. He even wants to sell his daughter for money. Someone, please help." My voice was mournful and trembling, as if I had suffered immense pressure. Soon, the neighbors all opened their doors and gathered around. Through the wide open door of my home, they saw the scene of Bob beating Rita inside, and Leo's frenzied attempt to lunge at me, all accompanied by my words, a story of a domestic abuser father, a two-timing mistress, and an abused daughter from the original marriage was quickly pieced together in their minds. Wah, my father wants to sell me off for money, and since I was little, they've been abusing me. My hands are covered in scars, and this brother of mine, he even secretly filmed me showering and tried to sell the video to his classmates for money. Please save me, I beg you, kind people, save me. They want to kill me to silence me. Hurry, save me. I trembled as I pulled up my sleeve, revealing the scars from past abuse clearly visible. My cries were piercing and sorrowful, like a helpless fledgling bird that had lost its family. "You bitch, what nonsense are you spouting?" The 3 people in the room snapped back to reality and lunged at me, but they were quickly restrained by the neighbors. "You people are truly despicable. I thought you were just neglectful, but I never imagined you actually abused Heidi. Call the police. We must call the police." Yeah. No wonder I always used to see Heidi crying alone in the hallway. It turns out you were the ones who kicked her out, you old scoundrel. Not only did you cheat, but you also abused your own daughter, and now, who knows if that son of yours is even yours. Listening to the neighbors scolding this family from all sides while shielding me behind them, I felt an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. I used to be afraid of damaging my family's reputation, so I never told anyone about my situation. As for now, why should my suffering be the price for their reputation now? I want them to pay back everything they owe me. The three of them finally got scared when they saw me being protected by many neighbors and someone actually making a move to call the police. Get out, all of you get out, and you little bitch, if you leave, don't ever come back. What business is it of yours if I hit my own daughter? Get out, all of you get out, Bob roared as he lunged forward and slammed the door shut with a heavy thud. From inside the room, his angry questioning of Rita and Leo's attempts to mediate could still be heard. I thought to myself, tonight is going to be quite eventful, wouldn't have it any other way. I silently replied to Bob's words in my mind. After thanking the neighbors for their help, I dragged my suitcase out of the residential area. I guessed that by tomorrow, the stories of Bob's domestic violence and being cheated on, Rita's affair and abuse, and Leo's secret filming and gambling will have spread throughout the entire neighborhood. Family, why would I need family? How could those who hurt you ever be considered family? My thoughts were clear, and I would no longer be held captive by my own mind. I rented a temporary hourly room and began trying to sort out my thoughts. Dylan and my so-called family would definitely not let this go easily. I needed an opportunity, a chance to completely break free from them. My gaze fell on the laptop I had brought from home, and my heart gradually settled. A week later, I returned to school. This week, aside from completing a certain task, I also sold all the clothes and jewelry Dylan gave me, combined with the bride price money I saved from working part-time for my younger brother. It totals $170,000, which is enough for me to complete my studies. In the past, I might have returned everything Dylan gave me for the sake of dignity, but now, come on, I deserve all of this. After enduring so much mental and physical harm, it's already kind of me not to ask him for emotional distress compensation. When I saw Dylan's car at the school gate today, I knew things wouldn't be that simple. As it turned out, I was right. Dylan was at our school today as an outstanding alumnus to give a speech. Towards the end of his speech, he suddenly changed the subject and called out my name. I have always held your esteemed institution in high regard, but even the best schools occasionally have their share of misfits. It truly surprises me that some individuals who refuse to admit their mistakes resort to violence like a shrew, and our habitual liars are still allowed to remain in our school. Don't you agree, Heidi? On the podium, Dylan looked down at me with a gaze full of contempt, as if I were an ant incapable of fighting back. This week, Dylan has made numerous threatening calls to me. They were all about making me pay the price, threatening me to obediently go apologize to him or something. I cursed him back every time, but I never expected he would send me such a big gift. Does he want to ruin my reputation? Facing the probing, whispering gazes of the entire school, I just felt utterly humiliated. At that moment, my hands and feet turned ice cold. In such a situation where everyone was pointing fingers at me, I felt so wronged and furious that I almost fainted. What should I do? Dylan has a powerful background. How can I possibly fight against him? Those who believe in me will naturally trust me, right? It's futile for me to defend myself. Maybe I should just stop talking. Beep. Detected that the current situation meets the usage criteria of the Super Alpha system. The Super Alpha system is now activated. The feeling of powerlessness was instantly replaced by disgust. I strode directly onto the stage and slapped Dylan hard across the face. This familiar feeling. Dylan clearly didn't expect me to embarrass him so openly in front of everyone. After all, just moments ago, he had clearly seen me trembling all over, my face filled with despair. And he already thought he had victory in the bag. Now, suddenly slapped in the face by someone he looked down upon, and in front of so many people, his expression twisted between a forced smile and anger. Ignoring Dylan's expression, I directly picked up the microphone. Classmates and teachers, I don't know what Mr. Dylan means by being a habitual liar, but as a young girl in the prime of my life, I was harassed by the CEO named Dylan, and that is the truth. Tears streamed down my face, and my body trembled uncontrollably, as if I were suppressing immense sorrow, while I was working day and night to earn my tuition. Mr. Dylan, who had been drugged, dragged me into a room and I lost my innocence just like that. At this point, I let out a painful, choked roar, my voice breaking with sobs. Afterward, he even humiliated me, saying I deliberately drugged him. After the investigation results came out, he claimed he had fallen in love with me and used my family's jobs to threaten me. I had no choice but to stay with him, but during our time together, he would always hit me and threaten me, saying that if I didn't behave, he would make sure I couldn't continue my studies. He locked me up at home and abused me, and when he took me to various banquets, he even forced me to entertain his business partners. I even peeked at his chat history. He was contacting a doctor to have my corneas transplanted to his white moonlight. I managed to escape and wanted to pretend nothing happened, but I never expected he still wouldn't let me go. He even spread rumors about me to force me back. I even have evidence, woo-woo. When I mentioned that Dylan had once contacted a doctor to remove my corneas, he was completely stunned. He never expected that such a secretive act of his had been discovered by me at some point, but it was already too late. After hearing my words, some students had already secretly taken out their phones to call the police. The strange and probing gazes, the discussions, were now directed at him. You'd better behave and be sensible, or I can make your life miserable. Anytime I want. When the time comes, we'll just gouge her eyes out. It doesn't matter whether she has eyes or not. I'll take care of her as compensation. It's an honor that Dylan, like you. If you don't appreciate it, don't blame me for making your family lose their jobs. I'm wronging you. So what? Even if I'm wronging you, you have to take it. If I tell you to be a dog, you can only bark at me. Heidi, you'd better behave, or I won't hesitate to send you to a nightclub to be properly trained. One after another, statements that repeatedly skirt the edge of the law shocked everyone's moral compass. This is a society governed by law, not some domineering CEO novel. Is this guy out of his mind? How on earth did he even become a CEO? I wonder. This is everyone's inner voice. In addition, I also played the recording of the entire process of Mary threatening and framing me that night. Watching Dylan's suddenly changed expression, I knew he wasn't regretting wronging me, but was merely angry that I dared to expose these things in public and embarrass him. Holy crap, what a huge scandal, a big CEO doing these kinds of things. The police should be arriving soon, right? Imprisoning and forcing others, isn't he already breaking the law? I know this Heidi, she's such a hardworking girl. I always knew she wasn't like that, and I said there's no way she could do something like this. It's just so unfortunate that she got targeted by such a lunatic. Doesn't this count as rape? How dare he say it on the podium? But I really admire Heidi. She actually recorded it secretly. What a solid piece of evidence. Of course, she deserves admiration, because this recording was a gift given to me by the supermale system as a qualified super macho. When there isn't a good enough reason to cause a scene, you have to make one up. That way, you can throw a tantrum without caring about anyone else besides. These are all things that have actually happened. I just added a little extra spice, and the super male system gave me a chance to recreate the scene, allowing me to gather evidence and better retaliate against those who hurt me. Dylan finally snapped back to reality, shouting for the bodyguards to evacuate the crowd. The school staff also scrambled to cut off the microphone and escort me off the stage. They were afraid of losing Dylan, a powerful investor. Unfortunately, it was too late. The sound of police sirens blared, and both Dylan and I were taken to the police station. Heidi, oh Heidi, I really underestimated you. You've changed so much, and now I want to destroy you even more. In the police car, Dylan laughed in extreme anger. His smile turned sinister, and I had no doubt that he had already thought of 1,000 ways to kill me. You should focus on your company's reputation first, President Green, I replied with a smile. What? Dylan's face turned pale. He opened his phone and realized that the incident on the podium had been live streamed by me from start to finish. Now, discussions about Dylan's alleged illegal activities are heating up, and various scandals involving the Green Group are spreading everywhere, causing the company's stock to plummet. Dylan, looking at the stock data in the background and the constant stream of contract termination notifications on his phone, was so furious that he tried to lunge at me to choke me. But the police easily stopped him. Behave, you're still a suspect, due to the long passage of time. There is no evidence to support the rape charge, and the recording has no legal effect. Now, we can only rely on the surveillance footage of Dylan previously abducting me and his statements at school today to temporarily detain him on charges of defamation and suspected kidnapping. I refused to settle and successfully ensured Dylan ended up in jail, but this is only detention. Although the Green Corporation's stock has plummeted, it still cannot be underestimated. I need an opportunity to completely take down Dylan. It has been a month since Dylan was released. During this month, the Green Corporation used aggressive tactics to suppress public opinion. The internet, as if it had no memory, gradually shifted people's attention to other matters, and the Green Corporation began to slowly recover. After Dylan was released, he seemed to have settled down and never made any harassing calls to me again. But since he threatened to withdraw his investment, my school also forced me to take a leave of absence. They called it a leave of absence, but it was essentially a disguised expulsion. However, I wasn't the least bit flustered. Perhaps it was because the supermasculine system was still in effect. I had become indifferent to others' opinions and unfair treatment. Secretly, I continued gathering evidence of the Green Corporation's tax evasion, as well as the school's bribery evidence. Perhaps it's because I knew Dylan would definitely make a move. Wah. My dear daughter, it's me. It's your dad. Come and save me. I've been kidnapped By someone. I've already divorced Rita. I was blind before, treating someone else's child like a treasure. Hurry, come and save me. From now on, you'll be my only precious daughter, and I will definitely protect you. As soon as the call connected, Bob's whiny plea for help rang out. After that night, Bob took a paternity test and, upon discovering that Leo was indeed not his biological son, became utterly disheartened. From then on, he began to abuse Rita daily. Rita could no longer endure the violence and divorced Bob. She then took Leo to seek refuge with his biological father. However, she was stripped naked by the man's wife, dragged into the street, and beaten until she was permanently disabled. As for Leo, he used the compensation money to develop a gambling addiction. He eventually lost all his savings and was sold to Myanmar by loan sharks, disappearing without a trace. Rita, unable to afford medical treatment, died from an infected wound. Bob developed an alcohol addiction and was too afraid to come see me for fear of being beaten. Now that he's been kidnapped, it's obvious just from thinking about it that Dylan is behind it. He probably still thinks I wouldn't be able to bear the thought of my own family suffering. Indeed, listening to the sound of clubs hitting flesh and the screams of my biological father over the phone, how could the average person stand by and do nothing? But sorry, I currently lack the ability to empathize, so I feel absolutely nothing inside. Where are you? My voice was unnervingly calm. After getting the answer, I made another call and resolutely rushed to the address mentioned in the conversation. As expected, I saw Dylan there. Ugh. As soon as I entered the warehouse, I was knocked out by a blunt blow. Faintly, I saw Dylan throw a stack of money at Bob's face, then gently pick me up. When I woke up again, I was already lying on an operating table. Everything around me was white, and in front of me stood a group of doctors in white coats, the pungent smell of disinfectant filling the air, and I was tied up with ropes all over my body. 10. Dylan, where is this? What do you want to do? Looking at Dylan, who was stroking my face with a perverted smile, I felt waves of nausea in my stomach. Heidi, you've still fallen into my hands. After making me pay such a high price, how could I possibly let you go? Don't worry, it won't hurt. I just need your corneas for Mary, then I'll lock you up and torment you for the rest of your life. Ha 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 ha. Thud. It was the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground, and that heavy object was Dylan. Sorry, but as someone with a super masculine physique, my physical fitness is already on the next level, and for the sake of self-protection, I've developed the habit of carrying a knife with me. If you're going to tie someone up, you should have searched them. So, after freeing myself from the ropes, I kicked Dylan in the head, and as he fell to the ground, I stomped down on his little brother. Ah, that was the sound of crushed eggs. Dylan clutched his crotch, his agonized cries echoing through the hospital. His face was contorted in pain, and blood was faintly seeping from beneath him. Just as the doctors inside the room and the bodyguards outside snapped out of their shock and prepared to detain me, the blaring sound of police sirens filled the air. Police, everyone, put your hands up and don't move. Fully armed police officers swarmed in, taking control of everyone in what was supposedly a private hospital but was, in reality, a human organ trafficking laboratory. Time goes back to the night in the rental apartment. That night, I contacted a rival company of the Green Corporation, offering them a newly developed product patent in exchange for their assistance in taking down Dylan. Yes, I am a science prodigy, but I was previously entangled with Dylan, which prevented me from completing my work, and when I proposed to Dylan that I wanted to create a scientific research project to collaborate with him, he shattered that idea with a slap. He said someone like me could never write good works, that I neither could nor deserved to, so my confidence was shattered, and the exhaustion from work kept me from finishing my piece. When the super male system awakened, I cast aside many unnecessary emotions. Everything was just about following my heart and doing what made me happy. With that mindset, I quickly completed this work, just as I predicted. Once it goes public, this project will yield at least a 5-fold profit, and I am willing to sell it to them with a 60-40 split, as long as they can monitor my movements at any time and help me find Dylan's weaknesses. Finally, they discovered that Dylan is highly likely to be abusing his power by running a private hospital for illegal organ trading. However, the location is extremely well hidden, and despite searching for a long time, no concrete leads have been found, so we set a trap. I knew Dylan wouldn't let me go, so I had a GPS chip implanted in my tooth early on and had the police release Dylan on the grounds of insufficient evidence. Those few days of detention were just to make Dylan let his guard down. Now, we have both witnesses and physical evidence. Dylan will be imprisoned for multiple charges including kidnapping, intentional injury, and illegal business operations, receiving a life sentence, and that kick of mine completely stripped Dylan of his manhood. The Green Corporation is also about to be shut down. At the same time, the evidence I collected regarding the school's bribery was successfully reported, leading to the removal of several school leaders who had shielded Dylan and suspended my studies. Bob was also imprisoned for assisting in kidnapping others, and my patent achieved great success after its launch, earning me a huge share of the profits. My popularity increased significantly, and I even received an offer from a prestigious overseas university. After studying abroad, I successfully joined the laboratory I had always wanted to be part of, and my future looks bright. One day later, after a long time, I heard the voice of 3321 again. Ding. Detected that the host has acquired self-protection ability. Detected that the host's moral value has reached the normal level. No threatening factors detected in the host's future. System 3321 is about to depart. Beep. Are you leaving? Actually, I still don't know how you exist, but all along, thank you. Really, thank you. Listening to the still cold, mechanical voice of the supervillain system, I seemed to detect a wealth of emotions within it. To me, it wasn't just a mechanical system, it was my salvation. It gave me the ability to protect myself, freed me from the need to compromise, and liberated me from the constraints of my family and feelings of unworthiness. It was my redemption. Now, it should be going to save the next person. Goodbye, host. You're welcome. I am the embodiment of countless women who died in silence and grievance. The existence that helps girls who are meant to shine find themselves. 3321. Unexpectedly, this time I received a response. In a daze, I saw countless gentle people smiling at me. We have found the courage to fight back, and morality is no longer a chain that binds us. I looked into the distance and smiled faintly, in the direction of the sun. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.